A Little Yuletide Murder, Chapter 15. The meeting started out in Mayor Shevlin's office, but quickly shifted to the courtroom because of the number of people who decided to attend. Kabutkov's courtroom didn't get much use. It's in section 2 nights a week to handle traffic violations and other minor infractions, but seldom hosts anything resembling a prolonged trial. The last one I could remember was a year ago when Sheriff Mesger, working in concert with state police, broke a car death ring operating out of an auto repair service on the outskirts of town. Stolen cars from all over the state were brought to this repair place to be painted and to have their VINs altered. The trial lasted 6 days. The accused were convicted and sent to a promontory in northern Maine. Well, looks like we have a media event on our hands, the mayor once said once he gotten everyone to settle down. A media circus, you mean? One citizen replied. It's a disgrace to be known as the town where Santa Claus was murdered. I second that, someone else said. It doesn't matter what any of us feel, Shavlin said. The fact is a murder did take place in Kabutkov, and the victim happened to be the person playing Santa Claus at our yearly festival. Obviously, that has plagued the interest of folks in the media, and they're coming here to report the story. Now, it seems to me that what we have to accomplish here this morning is to come up with a way to manage things so that everything goes smoothly and that Kabutkov comes off in the best possible light. I have something to say, Seth Hazlitt said. He and I sat next to each other in the front row. Yes, Dr. Hazlitt. Roy Brent's murder doesn't have anything to do with the average citizen of this town. You know how reporters are. They'll be poking their noses into everybody's backyard, trying to get some dumb answer from them on how they feel about the murder. If you want to protect the image of Kabutkov, I suggest anybody arrives here from the media, be herded up and kept on a short leash. The story they're interested is the murder. We've got a victim and we've got the accused. The only access these folks from out of town should have is with Mort and his people, the district attorney, and anyone else involved in the legal aspects of the case. After that, they shouldn't be allowed to talk to anybody. A few people applauded. Pascalia Hoy, chairperson of the Christmas festival, stood and faced the crowd. I will be the last one to debate anything with Dr. Hazlitt, she said. Pascalia is an attractive middle-aged woman with short blonde hair and a sunny disposition. She forged a successful career in public relations and the travel industry, but like attorney Joe Turco had become tired of the hectic pace of life in Manhattan, gave up her New York office and moved to the Boot Cove. Her natural marketing and public relations skills had been quickly put to use by the festival committee. She continued, but I think we might be missing an important point. Yes, we don't want this unfortunate situation to cast a pall over the festival. At the same time, as you all know, we pursued wider coverage of the festival than just main media outlets. We were delighted when that network talk show decided to broadcast from here last year during the festival. We send out news releases to all the major national media, so having them arrive, even though it's for a different purpose, should be put to good use. An integral part of the story is that this murder occurred during the weeks leading up to the festival and that this town refuses to be set back by it. The festival is going forward and it promises to be the most successful in its history. I'm sure we can maneuver the press in such a way that they'll balance their reports of the murder with upbeat, positive stories about the festival and the town. Now Seth stood. Can't say that I agree with you, Pascala. Seems a little naive to think the press would do anything positive. All they want is stories about blood and gore. Pasquella, who remained standing, said, I know that's a popular perception of the media, Seth, but it isn't necessarily accurate. I've been dealing with the press for many years, and I can assure you that if handled right, Roy Brent's murder will be part of the story, not the whole story. Seems like we should listen to Pascala, a citizen said. She's the expert when it comes to these matters. Nope, I go with the doc, said a gentleman from the rear. Reporters are a bunch of ghouls. Let's do like Doc suggest herd them up and make sure they don't stray. A spirited discussion ensued, with those in attendance pretty much split on whose side of the argument they favored. As usual, our diplomatic mayor settled the matter by suggesting a committee be formed to make a decision about how much latitude to give reporters. Seth declines to be on the committee, and I was asked if I would participate. It wasn't high on my priority list, but I accepted. All I can say is you better get this committee working pretty fast, Seth said disgustedly. From what I hear, the virtues will be descending on us any minute. With that, the door to the courtroom opened, and two young men and a young woman entered. The men carried portable video equipment, including lights and a microphone dangling from a long boom. The young woman, obviously the reporter, led them up the center aisle and to the front of the courtroom. Mayor Shevlin looked down from where he sat at the judge's bench and asked, Who might you be? Roberta Brannison, Fox News. Shevlin straightened his tie and buttoned his suit jacket. Welcome to Kaboot Cub, he said in a voice usually heard only when he was campaigning. Thank you, Miss Brenson, I said. Who runs things around here? Pardon? Shevlin said. Who's in charge? We're here to cover the Santa Claus murder. Shevlin looked to where Seth, Hazlett, and I sat. He frowned, pursed his lips, then turned to the reporter and said, I'm the mayor of Kaboot Cove. But I suppose you like to speak with our sheriff, Morton Metzger. The lights held by one of the two young men came to life, and the cameraman, the video camera propped on his shoulder, began recording. I like to speak with a lot of people, Miss Brannison said, starting with the person in charge of your Christmas festival. That will be Miss Hoy, Shevlin said, indicating Pascalia, who went to the TV crew and introduced herself. We'd like to interview Jessica Fletcher, too, Brannison said. She's sitting right over there, Pascalia said, pointing at me. The reporter, followed by her two colleagues, came to where I sat with Seth. Roberta Brannison, she said, extending her hand. Seth and I stood. I shook her hand. I'm glad you're in town, Mrs. Fletcher, said Brannison. I understand you travel a lot. Usually I do, but this Christmas I'm staying close to home. I understand you might be doing a book about the murder. I'm afraid you received faulty information. Miss Brannison turned to her crew and said, Let's get a wide shot of this room and the people in it, then turned to Shevlin. Is this meeting about the festival and the murder? Well, yes and no. We knew you were coming, and Brannison ignored him and instructed her crew where to position themselves. She turned again to me and asked, After we get some wide shots, I'd like to go where I could interview you in private, Mrs. Fletcher. I'm afraid I'm not about to become an interview subject, at least not where this tragic incident is concerned. By now, with the meeting thoroughly disrupted, people had gathered around us. You probably know more about the case, Jessica, than anyone else, except for the sheriff and the district attorney, a woman said. Oh, no, you're wrong. Is the sheriff here? Brannison asked. No, Seth Hazlett said. Got better things to do than hang around waiting for somebody with a camera and a microphone. Miss Brannison ignored him and asked me again if I would consent to an interview. Before I could answer, Jack Decker, the magazine publisher who joined our little knot of people, said, I think that's a splendid idea. I glared at him. Jack may be right, Seth chimed in. The reporter waited for the crew to join her. "You'll have to excuse me," I said, overtly checking my watch. "I have an appointment." "What's your phone number?" the reporter asked. "It's I'm in a book. Excuse me." Seth followed me to the courtroom door. "Where are you running off to in such a hurry?" "I have an appointment with Dr. Russo. You just had your teeth fixed." "I know, but I feel a sudden toothache about to come on." He looked at me quizzically, but didn't say anything else. I left the courtroom, walked briskly down the hall to the front door of Town Hall, and stepped outside. The sky was deep blue and without a cloud, the sunshine bright and glistening off the snow. I walked the block to a public phone, stepped inside the booth, pulled a scrap of paper from my pocket on which I had written a number and dialed it. A man answered. "This is Jessica Fletcher, and I'm calling up from Kaboot Cub. Dr. Seth Hazlitt called you on my behalf." "That's right," the man said gruffly. "I'd like very much to talk to you today, if at all possible." There was a long silence. "What time will be convenient for you?" I asked. "I'm not sure we should be having this talk, Mrs. Fletcher." "I know how delicate the topic is, Mr. Skaggs, but as you know, someone's life may hang in the balance." After another prolonged silence, he said, "Noon at my office?" "That would be fine. Can you give me directions?" After he had, I hung up and stepped out into the lovely December day. My temptation was to call Skaggs back and cancel our appointment, but I knew I couldn't do that, now that I put things into motion. I had no idea where the visit would lead, but if it would shed any light on what had happened to Roy Brent, I owed it to him, to his family, to Jake and Mary Walther, and to myself to pursue it. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Bye.